The 15th of October 2021, tarehe 15 mwezi wa 10 mwaka 2021. Natumai kwamba uko salama, you've woken up well. It's another Friday, the end of a week. It's been a very short week as well. We had a very long weekend last weekend, and guys, you know, the week has ended already. Wanasema October inakimbia, it's already end month. It's not begun. Anyway, it's a pleasure to have you at this Sheria Wiki of the 15th October 2021. And as usual, I request that when you join in, please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And after like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to widen the broadcast. It is a tackle and it begins now. And also, we are doing a recharge launch this Friday at Tindigwa on Friday. Pale recharge. We are launching a recharge dawa by House of Peptango this Friday. Later today from 9 a.m. we'll be in Tindigwa to launch up a recharge dawa. So if you can get your bottle, we might meet somewhere along the road and I might add you another one. But anyway, until then, I hope you guys are having a very good morning. Tafadhali ukifika pale piga like, ukisha like tafadhali share, ukisha unampa mtu mwingine nafasi ya kuweza kutazama the broadcast. This attack on begins now. Kama kawaida lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi basi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu. Nangojea daktari EKURU AUKOT, he's been missing, anatengeneza serikali pale South Sudan. So he's been operating between Kenya and South Sudan. So it's a pleasure to have you guys. Lakini tuende tuombe, alafu basi nikija na kuja kuona salamu za wangwana ambao wameamka tayari mapema sana. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you. We glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for the end of the week. We thank you even at these weekends. And as we have this conversation, may it edify the fabric of this country. For we pray, trusting and believing. Amen and amen. So, tuko na Faith SAMBU hapa ambaye ni wakili international lawyer anahitaji kwa Kiswahili. Anyway, Faith SAMBU is an international lawyer. Then we have as well Daktari EKURU AUKOT, the party leader THIRDWAY Alliance, ambaye pia ni wakili mkuu. And we also have JEROTICH SEII will be joining us as well in the next 10 minutes. She'll be joining us so that we can have a conversation together. Sawa wangwana niko nao leo watatu. Kama uko na swali yote kuhusu sheria ama mazungumzo yote ya sheria ambayo yanakuja, mambo ya ICJ, mambo ya huduma namba imesemekana ni null and void. It's an era of null and void in this country. It's not a very long time from now. They might actually say this government is null and void. But anyway, until we get there, we'll keep hoping things get better in this country. Fuel pia wamesema waliongeza na 7. They added by 7 shillings. Now they have reduced by 5 shillings. Hey, karate ya Kenya ni ngumu. Munga alita continue morning team tackle tuning in from Montreal, Canada. Good to be part of this morning Sheria Wiki. Good to see you, my brother. Salimia watu wa Canada sana. You've moved from the UK. Now you're in Canada. All right. Okay. So asante sana. Abidrisi, good morning, watching from Eldoret. Wakili BJB, I'm watching live. Asante sana. Wakili Ruth Kosgei, good morning from Milimani Road. Asante sana. Ruth, tuko na recharge yako. Tafadhali tafuta Romeo. Look for Romeo. Romeo alisema mtafuta akupee package yako ya recharge ya kuni spot. By the way, I'm giving you guys a challenge. If you spot me on the road, you get a recharge. If you spot me on the road, you get recharge. Pia niliona mungwana jana ambaye anaitwa nani mungwana wa Kitale. Jaza guy in Kitale anajiita Isaka 7 million. Okay, I don't know why he calls himself 7 million. But his 7 million yesterday walked 47 kilometers to mark the KDF day. Na akasema anataka kuricharjiwa. Jana tulimpiga recharge kiasi. Jana tulimpiga 47 good kilometers. Kongole sana ndugu yetu Isaka 7 million kutoka Kitale pale. Pongezi sana kwa ile kazi ambayo ulifanya jana. Thank you so much for the sacrifice you're making and for the passion you have for KDF. This one guy who has been trying to join the KDF since he was born, but he's never got an opportunity to be part of KDF. So pongezi sana Isaka, and I hope one day these guys will consider you to be something. Maybe you become someone who speaks for the military. Hopefully. So maybe you get there. Haya, sawa. Ruth, tafuta Romeo. Zakari Zaki, good morning team tackle watching from London, UK. Asante sana Mutisia Musime Nzime. Good morning tackle. Good morning to you. I hope you're doing well. Izaka Ogega, good morning from land of Matoke, tuned in kabisa. By the way, I need to send you some bananas. Nitumie bwana. Nitumie Matoke. Please, Matoke ndaye kula kwanza. Asante sana Isa Gogeka nasubiri nitumie Matoke. David Kitut Foden from Kapsabet Kusimba de Sam. Good morning. Good morning to you Kusimba. It's been a long time. Bet Gideon, good morning. Before getting you live from Uganda. Kukula Matoke tu uku. Acha tutafute pesa bro. Haya tafuteni shilingi. Mambo ni ngumu. Moyondi Zapania, wakili KHB. The wakili I know. Bigger bro, we are from the same place. Asante sana. Ni mbona watu wamejuana hapa. Asante MC Kalia. Good to see you. Menokwisha Kettle Deep Chairman. MC Kalia, good to see you, my brother. Robin Degwa from Atlanta. Okay, USA. Asante sana, good to see you, Robin Degwa. Manu Kibema, Westlands, Nairobi. Asante sana, iko ndani. Moyondi Savania. Takla Abi belated by the day watching from Juja. Asante sana Moyondi. Na mtumega kitu bwana. Birthday siku hizi inanga hata pesa. Moyondi, Tuma kitu bwana. Kevin great. Gerald Bitok, good morning to you. Ezra Kembai Koki, Gerald Bitok mwenyewe Chamge Nyiga Neta, asante sana. Karoli jina kubwa, Escobar Chamge bwana Bitok, good to see you my brother. Cleveland Otieno, good morning team tackle watching from Eldama Ravine. Allah umetoka CBD umeenda Eldama Ravine, asante sana. Cleveland Otieno, Ilaringa teach watching. Matonye, good morning from Lord, asante sana. Manathan logged in at Maju, great minds there with my party leader Daktari EKURU, asante sana. Honorable Josh Kiblaga Rotuk logged in ikiwa Eldoret. Karen Bitok, my sister, asante sana. Good morning kijana yangu watching from Bolboit, asante sana. Nasalimia wangwana wa Bolboit. Kayugia Kamusinga, General Bitok, good morning sir. At this rate the court should just declare all this null and void. The Lord is good. Cleveland Otieno, that's how cartels are taking us for a ride. Ongeza 7 shillings, punguza 5 shillings, and now they're screaming from the top of the mountain. Terrible. And by the way, your MP yesterday was not in parliament when the fuel issue was being discussed. Just for the records, only a quarter, barely a quarter actually of MPs were in parliament yesterday. So your MP, I can guarantee your MP was not in parliament yesterday discussing the issues that affect you most about the fuel prices and the cost of living. But they'll be there to discuss in 100%. 4 out of 4. They'll be there to discuss their salary increments and other things which are very nonsensical to you as a citizen. So you have another opportunity in 2022. I've told you guys, go and register. It's almost 2 weeks now and the IBC has barely met even its targets in voter registration. Kwa hivyo enda pale ukachukue kura uweze kufanya uamuzi 2022 if you choose to re-elect your MP who was not in parliament yesterday when the issues that affect you most were being discussed. Then my friend, I don't know, sijui unahitaji nini, sijui ni makofi, ni mateke, ama ni yote wholesale. Haya, tulipe madeni. Tulipe madeni. Tuanze na watu wa maridadi wa magari. Maridadi Motors inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuagiza gari kwa bei nafuu zaidi. You can import directly with Maridadi Motors and you get to save up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings when you import with Maridadi Motors. You don't get such a deal anywhere else. And also if you are saving, if you want some money that's lying somewhere and you want to invest it, you can invest in the import to sell model where they get to import the cars under your name and they sell it on your behalf and you make up to 15% returns on your investment. Or you can also save in Maridadi Motorcycle for 2 reasons. If you are saving for a unit, you can save up to 50% of the total value of the unit you're buying or the car that you're buying. If it's $1 million, you save 500,000, you get your car. Alafu nalipa ingine pole pole ukiwa barabarani. Pia Maridadi Driving Academy, we will be there on Monday. Utaona watu wa Maridadi Driving Academy pale. You went there and I always tell you this, best drivers or good drivers don't happen by accident, they are trained. So ukitaka kuwa driver chonjo zaidi, enda pale Maridadi Driving Academy uweze kufunzwa kuwa driver maridadi zaidi. Na kama pia unajenga, Rex Roofing nakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba nyumba yako inakaa shwari zaidi, nyumba yako inakaa imeng'ara zaidi. I tell you this, your roof is your house's legacy. You can do, there are things you'll do, there are things you'll do several times. But the roof is something you'll always do once. So if you need to ensure that it looks the best, it's a crown on your house. So kama unajenga, tafadhali hakikisha kwamba you can get quality roofing shingles from Rex Roofing. Ama pia kama unataka stone coated tiles, you can get it from Rex Roofing. If you also build already and you want to do maybe waterproofing, you want to do floor waterproofing, you want to do roof waterproofing, you can get waterproofing solutions from Rex Roofing at 10% discount this October. We've extended from customer care week. We had a customer service week and we are doing 10% on waterproofing solutions, but we've extended it for all month of October. So for the whole month of October, you'll be enjoying 10% discount on all waterproofing solutions from Rex Roofing. Na pia kama unataka kucheza kama wewe, uweze kuharvest maji, uweze kuhakikisha kwamba unapunguza gharama yako ya maji, weka UPVC water harvesting gutters from Rex Roofing. Rex Roofing roofs your world. www.rexroofing.com. Ameweza kupiga simu kwenye nambari ambayo iko pale kwenye screen ama email sales@rexroofing.com. Alafu basi unaweza kusaidika zaidi. Kama ni mtu wa airtime pia kimbia pale Swift Airtime KE, na kama pia unataka kupiga mngaro D-Square where from Eldoret pale Ketia building 4th floor, wanahakikisha kwamba unakaa shwari zaidi. Na kama uko na mzigo pia unataka kuisukuma, Zigo inahakikisha kwamba mzigo wako inafika kwa njia rahisi na njia shwari zaidi. Haya, asanteni sana. JEROTICH, good morning to from Mombasa. Honorable Josh Kiblaga Rotuk, Gerald Bitok ambia JEROTICH SEII aombe women rep tutamsupport huko so what. MC Kalia IBC watuombe idea za kupata numbers. Ni kubaya. Haya, naona JEROTICH SEII tayari kama ameingia pale, ameungana na sisi. Tutaweza kumzungumzia kwa njia kifupi zaidi. Haya. Faith.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibia microphone.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me today. Yes.
This is your first time on the tackle?
Yes, this is my first time on the
Have you heard about us?
Yes, I have.
Where did you hear about us? Tulikuwa tunasengenywa wapi?
Just online.
Okay.
Yes.
Alright. So acha nikupe nafasi ya kuweza kujiintroduce kwa wangwana, wewe ni nani, unafanya nini? Kwa nini unafanya Kenya unafanya?
Okay. So my name is Chepkorir SAMBU. I am a lawyer And I'm currently doing my master's in, it's called a Master of Arts in Law and Diplomacy at the Fletcher School, Tufts University. My current focus is international negotiation and conflict resolution and international legal studies. Yes.
All right. Fletcher iko wapi?
Fletcher iko Massachusetts. I hear you have audiences from the US.
Yeah,
so
these are diasporans. I have a lot of diasporans.
I hope they know. They probably know it. It's in Massachusetts, the United States.
So you're studying in USA while you're here?
Yes, I'm doing my first semester virtually, but I should things should be able to work out so that I travel by next year. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ongera. So what is international law? When you say you're doing international law, you just know law is law.
Well, I am interested in international law. I can't say I'm an expert yet, so I'm still learning. But international law is the law that governs how states relate to each other. States, in this case, countries. That's just how countries relate to each other, so that there's no confusion and disorder. Because when you when you leave countries to behave the way they want to, other countries will suffer at the expense of others. So international law regulates those relationships. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So utatuambia, I'm told you know something or a few things about we have some comments to make about the ICJ ruling that was made yesterday, the other day between Kenya and Somalia. On what would have Kenya done? Was it expected? The ruling, was it expected when it came in? But before we get to that, JEROTICH, say good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, we are asking to see your beautiful face. You cannot see
me at this time of the morning. You know where I am.
Ala?
Niko kwa shimo mahali.
Hey.
Let me see.
Need to see you.
It may not be a very good
Don't worry. You just don't. Yeah. That is very good. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Salimia Wangwana.
Wangwana.
Napole last week. I know last week we let you down as well. You should have been here.
No problem. No problem at all. How is everything? Your end is good?
Yeah, well, we can't complain.
Good.
Only Kenyans are waiting to hear about the things that are happening. We had Pandora. It's been a very eventful month. Tumekuwa na Pandora, tushafika Panama, tumerudi tuko US, America, tumerudi. Ay! Safari ndefu zaidi.
Safari ndefu.
So, I mean, Salimia Wangwana pia, kwa mara nyingine, it's been a year since you were here with us. So, I know you...
Is it a year?
It's been a year already. You were here last year.
Goodness. Shame on me.
Imagine.
Or shame on you.
No, I've been looking for you. So shame on you. But I know. We've been talking.
I've been a bit missing in action.
Yes,
but you know me, I'm around. Yeah. Active citizens never disappear.
They just take a sabbatical.
Yes. No, but it's great. It's great to be back on the show, and I send my greetings to all the Kenyan patriots and active citizens out there in Kenya and the diaspora. And you know, the diaspora is very important for me. I hold the diaspora very close to my heart. Yeah.
All right. Say hi to these ladies and gentlemen who are watching you this morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Sasa tuanze na mambo ya Pandora. I think we were supposed to have a conversation last week about Pandora. I know you have a lot to say about it, but I think we start from there first of all and really get to understand. First, suddenly we have moved away from this thing. Nobody's talking about it. Now we're talking about other issues which are very, which are not really important for us. And I think it's in our psyche that these people understand how fast we move on from the things that affect us and the things that they do to us. What's your feeling? What comments do you have about Pandora, even before we move to how fast we move from very integral things?
You know, Gerald, my feeling is that it's a deliberate ploy by the state. Every time there is a very hot issue, an issue that should literally have us going to the streets to bring government to a standstill, something else comes up. The price of kerosene goes up, then it goes down, then steamer does this, and then so it's a strategy to keep us constantly distracted. And I think that we do have a bit of attention deficit disorder as Kenyans because you don't know what scandal to follow. And you know, one thing I would say about Pandora's box is that Pandora Papers is that which is opening effectively a Pandora's box. Yeah. But one thing I would say about Pandora Papers is that is the tip of the iceberg. You know, we may be talking about the $3 billion billion that was found in a few accounts stashed away by the Kenyatta family. But we know in reality as Kenyans that billions of shillings, if not trillions, of our shillings have disappeared on the watch of this regime. And so the questions we should be asking ourselves should be, what are we going to do as Kenyans? So the 3 billion is a tip of the iceberg. We know that the Kenyatta family, for example, has a 500 billion shilling investment in Northland City, never mind all their other business interests, never mind every single disputed acre of land that somehow a family that was as poor as your family and my family 60 years ago are now multi-trillionaires. We refuse to have those conversations as Kenyans because we're afraid. We're afraid of backlash. We also feel we can't do anything. We're helpless. So you either sit in despondency, or you say, hey, if I can't beat them, let me join them. Then you become a tenderpreneur. In your own way, you start looking for ways to make money that is not completely straight. It's because we have, and it's back to the Linda Katiba work that we have been doing, we have a constitution that is very clear in terms of its prescription around law and order and around what we should be doing as citizens, but we ignore it. In fact, it's not you and I who ignore it, Gerald. It is the elite. They set the stage for us, and they say this is a document that is arbitrary. We may or may not use it as and when we see fit. So it's a very big problem. It's a deep problem. So Pandora Papers is just one of the many. It's like the IMF campaign last year. It's yesterday the president was meeting with the president of the United States, and we'll just keep being distracted. Then we hear there's the ICJ ruling. This maritime issue has been brewing for a very long time, and Kenya saying no, we don't recognize that judgment. You know, there's always something, but most importantly for Anjiko, it's issues of survival. You know, school started again, and I have somebody who comes from Isiolo and goes actually deep inside Samburu and goes to school in Eldoret. Do you know just transport to get my student from there to Eldoret and back, just this 1 week break that we had, is about 6 or 7K. Wow. Never mind school fees, never mind. So we are so busy with the daily challenges, the daily grind. Have we paid our rent? Have we managed to pay our next school fees installment? Have we managed to pay our stima tokens? We are so busy with that, we never follow up on these issues. And when we try to, we are told, shut up. And then media is a big culprit. Yeah. Media doesn't want to discuss it. Media is busy taking us to race to State House, nini. So we are always on the wrong topic, but it's deliberate. This is not accidental. So it's something that we need to keep having conversations about, and that's why I'm happy to come to the tackle. And I'm happy to come to any show that is willing to candidly address these things. Why should we be afraid? Who have we abused? We're calling things what they are. And you know, the diaspora sitting out there, and the diaspora tuned in to your show and other shows, should always remember that they're very, very powerful, but have been disenfranchised. They're not allowed to vote because IBC has deliberately disobeyed Supreme Court orders around the vote for the diaspora. So ultimately, Gerald, it's about deny, deflect, and defy. So when something happens, the government will deny. No, who said we didn't? These are rumors. This is a ploy by international journalists to discredit the Kenyatta family. Funny, they think they're so important that an entire fleet of international journalists would have an agenda to discredit them. No, this is a systematic investigation, and we say nabado. Then they come to deflect, which was the issue last week. Oh, is it so bad to have an offshore account? There's nothing wrong with an offshore account. This and that. So we start debating the merits of an offshore account and the illegalities. And then finally, once we have been deflected, and we're also deflected by other things like the cost of stima and so on, then they defy. And our government is one, and our leaders are people who thrive on defiance. You defy the law. You defy. So even if you ask, even if you say return this, even if we say, like, look at Huduma number now, which has now been declared, not kosher. Me, I never got a Huduma number. And when we say this is not legal, this is not regular, we were defied. 10-point-something billion shillings later, Huduma number is a dud. Where is that money? There's no accountability. Then we'll be deflected, and then we'll be defied, and on and on. You know, it's rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. So we have to, as Kenyans, get to a point where we are willing to go to the streets. You know, when you say that, you say, you leave it for young people from young unemployed youth, mahasla waende wa demonstrate, or other people to go and demonstrate. Waende barabara, because the rest of us think we're too important to take to the streets. The rest of us think that we're not affected by the looting, the graft, the corruption, the larceny, the illegalities in this country, that we are all suffering. Do not be fooled. Do not be fooled. You see me sitting in my car here. Do you know how you scrape to put money to fuel your vehicle? The other day when I filled my tank, it is literally 2,000 shillings more than it was a few years ago to fill my tank. So people have to put 500 bob, 200 bob, 100 bob, 1,000 shillings, and we're just here pretending that we're okay, and we're not okay. So that's my morning rant. That's how I start off the show for you. And I've sketched it around. I mean, I've touched on many things, but I hope it gives you a sense of my state of affairs in terms of my feeling that something actually has to be done.
Now, on the Pandora Papers, do you think Kenyans are ever going to get a closure from, because when the issue came up, the president was like, guys, don't worry, I'll come and talk about it when I come back. Do you think Kenyans are ever going to get a closure on this thing? Do you think we're really ever going to close in on this?
Well, you see, the closing in, it would be a question for me. They have offshore accounts, yes. They have 3 billion. You would need something forensic to figure out where these people got their money from. As I asked, where is the innovation? What is it that they have done? What type of, are they Aliko Dangote? What type of industrialists would end up with this? Or do we go back to, what is it? Forensically, where did they get their money? And this lifestyle audit that the president had promised us years ago, that never happens. Or you make sure everything, if JEROTICH has 10 billion shillings, I put it in your name, Gerald, I put in the name of so-and-so, I put it in some foundation somewhere, this and that. So when I'm now showing you what money I have, you look at my account, and I have 2 million shillings. And then you see, I don't own any house because all my property is registered in some shell company, inside a shell company, inside a shell company, inside another shell company. You'll never find it. So you see, we cannot find closure because there isn't the political will, despite the fact that there's the legal requirement to go in and see what has actually, it's like NYS money. It's every single scandal. It's STIMA. When you have IPPs that will be eating 2.14 trillion shillings of ours over the next 20 years, there's no place you look where there isn't an opportunity or an impetus or a reason to do some forensic auditing. But we don't. So my answer to you is we don't get closure because we never get to the point of investigation. If we were to deeply investigate, forensically, get an independent team of experts, because you cannot send thieves to catch thieves. You cannot send wolves to protect the sheep from other wolves, because those wolves will also be eating. So long as we cannot get that investigative procedure right, so long as we have an the Kinoti in June 2019 said 150 billion shillings have been stolen from Kenya Power. Has anyone ever been arrested? KEMSA billionaires, who was arrested? The COVID billionaires, who was arrested? So we don't get closure because there's not the ability or the will to investigate to a logical conclusion. And even when you do, like with the COVID billionaires, because there's a lot of expose around that, there is the defiance. So no one is in jail. People will say, that lady who said that she was praying, I don't know what, and then
it was an answered prayer. Then there's another guy who was just walking. He said, me, I was just passing
walking, and then he was told to go in. Well, how come you and I are not that lucky, Gerald? Don't we pray every morning?
I don't know. Or maybe we walk in the wrong places.
So there's a fundamental problem, and our work with Linda Katiba is saying it begins and ends with the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. If we followed it, if you go in to public procurement and assets disposal, it's very clear how we're supposed to function. All those IPPs out there that have power purchase agreements were illegally signed, illegally developed and signed. So even as we're paying Lake Turkana wind power, even as we're paying all these thermals, whether it is solar, whether it is thermal, whether it is hydro, we have illegalities in this power purchase arrangements. We want to say, now there's a task force around STIMA, and they're saying, oh yes, we want to reduce
Hello?
back. 100% to the Constitution and understand that those IPPs received their power purchase agreements illegally. Full stop. And when we begin to start canceling some of these things, when some people end up behind bars, and not just a small person here and there as collateral damage, but the big fish, then maybe Kenyans will know impunity is not the name of the game. But for now, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and the defiance, look at the president's statement around the ICJ ruling. I mean, everything is around defiance and deflection and denial. That's how our government functions on the 3 Ds. Deny, deflect, defy.
3 Ds. Now, 2 questions, Jero, before you go, because I don't want to keep you as well for long. I know you're on the road. 2 questions for you. There's something you're very passionate about, Kenya Power, and you've been in loggerheads with Kenya Power Management for the longest time on how the affairs of the company is being run. Now, the government is saying they have taken over, quote unquote, because they have, I mean, how can you take over a company that is publicly listed? You cannot make it a government. But anyway, so the government has taken over Kenya Power, and the people who have been put in the task force are the people whom the management has been complaining about. The management has been complaining that the board has gotten into the management of the company, which should not be. There needs to be lines between management and the board. Now, the same people on the board who the management have been complaining have been influencing the decisions at Kenya Power are the ones who have been put at the helm of the task force to run the task force change. Now, what's the game? We saw what happened to KMC. Now it's under the military. We've seen what has happened to other government institutions which have been taken away from the public and are being run in a different way. Is this the fate of Kenya Power? And what is the big scheme in this?
You see, Gerald, for me, one thing, the Houses of Parliament failed in terms of oversight of Kenya Power. You know, they even called the board a few weeks ago, and the chair of the board was dismissive, if not outrightly rude to the committee that summoned them to ask questions about the cost of steamer. So we have an emasculated parliament that seems incapable of dealing with a company such as Kenya Power. And why? Because the vested interests in Kenya Power have always been clear from the beginning. If you look to see, if you were to unpick all these contracts to find out who owns Thika Power, who was behind some of the Ormat scandals, if you look at Lake Turkana Wind Power, who owns, when you unpick the ownership, you understand why Kenya Power remains so highly protected. So number one, Parliament failed in its oversight. How do you allow then the government to oversight itself? I mean, when I say the government, the executive. The executive has set up an interministerial department to investigate a body that fell under Ministry of Energy. Keter has been moved to another ministry. Won't he therefore be part of that interministerial group to investigate himself and what him and Dr. Njoroge were doing when they were in Ministry of Energy? So how do you have the executive oversighting itself? And it's a publicly listed company, as you said, and come to the board. And if anyone goes to my Twitter handle, we already wrote about it last year. The conflict of interest within the board is incredible, beyond belief. You know, you're putting the gatekeepers of some of these same independent power producers in the board, and that's why they eventually were at loggerheads with the company. I will not say that the employees are squeaky clean, because every place you look within Kenya Power, it is riddled with some level of theft or scandal. So it's small, big, medium, but there's a continuous looting and creating of chaos within the company, so that at the end of the day, when you need $1 billion shillings to pay X, Y, and Z, they will call upon us. Your tokens will suddenly kimbia top speed. Your postpaid account, you'll suddenly go, I received a bill for 24,000 shillings this month. And last month, I had a bill for about 44,000. In 2 months, I've consumed 67,000 shillings worth of steamer, and I don't have a factory. And one of the months, I wasn't even in the house. The house was empty. So they load the consumer with the fruits of their theft and their corruption. So this task force, we have committee after committee. You know that song where Sonko was dancing, the party after party? You have
now it's committee after
committee after task force after task force. Within this task force, they call us, you see the State House. And I say State House has a vested interest and has always had a vested interest in electricity in this country. And so you have now chief of staff sitting on the task force. You have people who have been implicated and part of energy shady deals over the years sitting on that same task force. What is the solution? The solution is to cancel the PPAs because they were unconstitutionally signed and brought into force. So this is all a sham to distract us. You saw yesterday the kerosene prices went down, and I think diesel has also gone down. So in December, we shall be told, oh, we have reduced your prices per kilowatt hour to this. They'll remove 1 shilling or 2 shillings, 3 shillings. This is a populist move that will take us into the election. So they'll say, you see, tunajali maslahi yenu, and then come June, July, August, they will start coming back to say kulikuwa na drought, and so we had to put up the prices because we were using diesel thermal. That's what they did to us in 2017.
So they take back the money again.
They stole 10.1 billion shillings illegally from consumers. They admitted that 900,000 consumers were affected by, in quotes, this overbilling business. So this is Groundhog Day, Gerald. There is nothing new that we haven't seen in this country, but we fall for it repeatedly. So when the new CS of energy is saying, Sijui Mara task force, even that initial task force that the president put in force, where is the Gazette notice and how is it grounded in legality? That first task force that was to look at IPPs and their PPAs. Now you have another task force that has been brought together by the CS of energy. It's a mess. It's a mess. And we as consumers will bear the brunt because they know we do not rise up. We do not rise up collectively. You let JEROTICH and Mama Switch of KPLC make a lot of noise, and then you make noise here, and then they say, we are Twitter activists or we are Facebook activists. If I were to say, Kenya, we take to the street in all our major towns. Energy is the Waterloo of this country. Really, it is the Waterloo of this government. The corruption starts and ends. If you were to understand the heist within the energy sector, we would be able to clean this country and start afresh. People have not understood fully because there's health, there's education, there's infrastructure, energy. Energy is the one place over the years that we have been looted consistently as the people of this country. Imagine how a publicly listed company operates. And constitutionally, they are not supposed to be a monopoly. And de facto, they are not a monopoly. They have never written anywhere that they are a monopoly, but they have monopolized the energy sector. And when people go for solar, they want to jump into solar. They want to regulate everything and make sure that we as the people of Kenya have no otherwise but to use Kenya Power. And we have to keep speaking up in whatever way. People tell me, oh, are you an engineer? Are you in the energy sector? I say, no, but I'm in the sector of counting the shillings in my wallet every day. And I understand that the cost of living is impossible and we can no longer sustain it. And if you look here, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's energy, we have a massive problem. But we have white elephants, the SGRs, this expressway, sijui this, sijui that. We need to spend 300 billion here, 200 billion here. Huduma number costs us 10 billion, all for nothing. You can be sure that money ended up in people's accounts somewhere. So, and that Pandora Papers will one day mention, and then they say, this is propaganda of international journalists. Meanwhile, our media houses are keeping quiet, so quiet.
All right. Now, Parliament yesterday convened to talk about the fuel issue. Barely a quarter of the members of Parliament were in the House to discuss this very important conversation. Are we on our own?
We are on our own. In fact, if we were to really run a rigorous campaign and say, who is your MCA, where you live, who is your MCA? In fact, if you ask me, I don't even think I know the name of my MCA. I don't know the name of my MCA. And who is your member of parliament? And why do you pay their salary every month? Why? We as the taxpayers pay their salaries. What have they done for you between 2017 and 2021? Now watarudi kuomba kura zenu. What did your governor do for you? You see, we do not connect. We think that they are just privileged people who happen to be sitting somewhere and we pay their salaries. Throughout COVID, nobody cost a salary.
Hello?
It's absolutely incredible for me that at the end of the day, we have a parliament that sits there and is unable to protect us. We are on our own. We need to recall them. It's a bit late to recall. I see there's been an attempt to recall one member of parliament. I'm forgetting who it is. I saw a petition that was circulating. But I can tell Kenyans, do not vote back your MCA or your member of parliament if they did nothing for you. If you can ask them, mulifanya nini hii question ya stima? I'm a question your health. I'm a question your barabara. The road that you've been driving on that has a pothole, unaweza could disappear for 3 days, then you appear on the other side, and you're struggling. There are no. Ask them, what have you been doing? Except eating our salary every month. There are some excellent legislators there, but we need a critical mass of good legislators. And those who were in Parliament yesterday to debate this important thing, I say congratulations to them, kudos to them for at least being there. But every member of Parliament, all those hundreds and hundreds of them, should be there wakishughulikia maneno ya stima. But maybe they have given up. Maybe they have received brown envelopes. There's always a story that legislators are often quickly compromised. They're the first ones to be compromised. You're given a brown envelope there and you disappear. You don't appear when it's time for crucial votes. You don't appear to debate the issues. So we are on our own. But we'll still be there voting for them next year. Why? Why? You know, so it's a big problem. And yes, they dropped the price of kerosene. But you ask, why was it hiked in the first instance? Where was EPRA in the first instance? How did somebody wake up and decide that kerosene is going up by this amount? So if it is so arbitrary, then they should arbitrarily then reduce it again by another 50%, especially when you look at global oil prices at the moment. The oil prices globally, and even during the pandemic last year when it was almost at zero, you would have thought that there would be a reflection in terms of what we pay for diesel, for petrol, for kerosene. But no. Kenya is a banana republic of the highest order and a major crime scene.
The bananas have refused. Say the country hasn't belonged to them. Anyway, Dr. AUKOT is here. I don't know if he has anything to say to you before you disappear.
Well, nothing much. Good morning, JEROTICH.
Morning, Daktari.
Habari ya masiku mingi.
Salama, habari yako.
I see you're still doing a good job fighting KPLC, but they have refused to reduce the prices. But do you realize that in certain neighborhoods, say in Nairobi, the prices are hiked, and in some neighborhoods, no. So there is a category of Kenyans that Kenya Power actually is targeting deliberately. Maybe, I don't know, to compensate. I've never understood the rationale. Sometimes you get a bill per month, and you will think that maybe you are running a small cottage industry in your house.
This is true. And because there's an opaqueness around meters and meter reading, I think, and the fact that they do this deadly thing called estimates, they're always estimating. They say, oh, we estimate that Dr. AUKOT consumed 15,000 shillings worth of steamer this month, because last month his bill was around 10K. So let's say it's been busy, it's school holidays. We assume now you went up by 5K. And then they will not come and read your meter for 3 months. And then suddenly you have a bill of 50K because it's based on estimates. They have algorithms that accelerate the speed of your consumption. Certain neighborhoods there seem to be people who don't even look at their bills. When your bill comes 40K, 30K, 10K, who cares? They just pay. And then places where people are using tokens, they will monitor and they will say sometimes we shall accelerate the speed of your token. So your token that should last you 1 day is gone in 2 hours. So it's a mix and match. But that said, there is really a pricing or a scaling in terms of price. Like urban areas will pay a little bit more than rural. It was part of the whole equalization so that you can allow steamer to get to far-flung rural areas. But let me ask you a question, Daktari, and think about it. Look at Lake Turkana wind power.
Yeah.
And how much energy it produces up there in Marsabit. Ask yourself the question, how much electricity is available in Marsabit? It's evacuated down from Loyangalani to Suswa. And for the people of Marsabit to access steamer again, it has to be evacuated back up. I mean, there's a high level of inefficiency, even around power that is generated and its ability to impact positively the lives of those nearby. People treat steamer like it's a privilege. It's not a privilege. Electricity is not a privilege.
No, I totally agree with you. You know, as I was coming to the show, I was listening to you earlier on discussing about this Kenya Power. The truth for the matter is Kenya power distribution in this country and generation is run by a cartel of companies that is partly government and partly these people in the corporate world. In fact, one of the reasons why corruption will never end in this country is because the people who talk about corruption actually are themselves the corrupt. They are the thieves. So when we talk about government investigating corruption, well, it has to kill itself first before it actually gets us the real thieves of our public money. So even in things like power, consumables, all those things, like you're right. Well, why should we be struggling in this country, especially coming from northern Kenya myself? Solar energy is something that we can easily harvest, and all you need to do is just make sure that it is channeled to the nearest grid, national grid, and every school will be lit, every public institution, every home in this country will be lit. But because it's a cartel that is running power generation and distribution in this country with the help of government, that's why the cost of electricity and power is high. And that's why we will never industrialize this country, because who will want to go and build an industry in Turkana when power generation is a monopoly? Who will want to build an industry in Mandera or in Marsabit when power generation is being controlled? So a few guys are making billions and billions of money, and that's why when you talk of the Pandora Papers, I mean, it's a diversion. It's a diversion to the hill that's happening in this country daily.
And Daktari, you were on the Committee of Experts for the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Mm-hmm. The fourth schedule of the Constitution says that counties have a right to reticulate their utilities. Mm-hmm. They have a right to figure out how they are going to manage their water, their electricity, and other services. But we have a situation where Kenya Power has monopolized electricity distribution and sale. It is a throttling of even the Constitution by Kenya Power itself. If you go there to the fourth schedule, by now counties should be able to decide. So Turkana should be able to say, this is how we're going to organize our water, this is how we're going to organize our electricity, and so on and so forth. So that if Marsabit now, the owner of high speeds of wind, and the way you see Lake Turkana wind power there, even if it is an international investment or other companies that come in there, the county government of Marsabit should be able to discuss and decide, even from this amount that's being evacuated down to Suswa, what are we doing with what will be left with us? Or are we selling? Do we get royalties? What are the people of Marsabit getting? In fact, there's 265 kilometers of way leave monies that are owed to the people of Marsabit to the tune of about 7 billion shillings.
Yeah.
You're looking at the Ethiopia interconnector, you're looking at Suswa, Loyangalani Suswa. So even that type of money that should have come to the people of Marsabit, so that at least as a result of whatever industries are present there, they are able to ameliorate their lives. You don't have that. So it boils down to disobedience to and off the Constitution of Kenya, and we can only arrest that by coming back to saying we're going to be 100% faithful to the Constitution. Everything starts and stops with the Constitution of Kenya.
Totally agree.
Aya, Jero, your last remarks? Your tackle of the day. I'll say your tackle of the day.
My tackle of the day. My tackle of the day is let us Linda this Katiba. Let us stop the denying, the deflecting, and the defiance. If we always listen with the lens or the ears, we hear when our politicians start to speak, when they'll start denying Huduma number, or they'll start denying. Just remember, people are denying, deflecting, and then defying. And as the people of Kenya, we have to come up with a way that we say enough of this. This is impunity. We call it impunity. And the impunity lies in that defiance. And we have to say enough of that. And we need more. You make noise, you sound like the mad person in the village shouting all the time. But the noise we have been making about Stima has come to pass. People are now woke, so to speak. They're aware. They know it's not just an accident on the part of Kenya Power. They understand that this is systematic theft throughout the energy sector, from its generation to its transmission to its distribution, its regulation, and its sale. And so we have to keep shouting. My tackle is don't stop making noise. Don't stop making noise. Don't stop educating. Sambaza things in your WhatsApp groups. Talk to family members. And remember to register to vote. Register to vote. And please do not vote back your MCA or your MP if they have done absolutely nothing for you these number of years. All they want is your vote. They promise you, they talk to you nicely, then you pay their salaries for the next 5 years. We have to stop being foolish. As Kenyans, we have to wake up and bring people who will actually stand. We put them there as our servants, to be our interlocutors, to be our protectors, to be those who make sure that the country runs the way it's meant to run. So I don't know where the tackle is, but the tackle is found somewhere inside there. And I promise not to disappear for another year.
Please stop disappearing. Now, I think Daktari has something.
No,
with you,
Jerotich, the question I have when you guys, and I support your initiative of Linda Katiba, ideally I agree with it, although I slightly differ, because if you look at, for example, the people that, the choreography towards 2022, and this is one of the ujinga that has Kenyans have. Earlier on, I was listening to you saying that diversion, we're being diverted to not focusing on the things that really matter to us. You know, I agree totally with the idea of Linda Katiba, but look at who is being chaperoned to 2022. The same fellows who actually have defied, refuse to respect this constitution. And I think for me, maybe, I think our generation really needs to come out very strong now and say we can actually replace these people. And we need to speak truth to power, because I do not see, I don't know, the Mudavadis, the Gideon Moyes, Railas, even Ruto. I don't see those people protecting this constitution, because they have been part and parcel of defiling this constitution. And therefore, for me, I wish, right now, sometimes I walk the streets and people tell me, I wish Rudisha Punguza Mizigo. But you see, Kenya, the same Kenyans who are being swayed not to support Punguza Mizigo are now telling me bring it back, because we are really putting some very stringent measures, especially on these things to do with corruption, even criminalizing, by the way, violation of the constitution. We had actually proposed criminalizing violating the constitution, so that whoever violates the constitution, whether a president or a sitting member of parliament, is actually barred completely from running for any public office. But yes, let's Linda Katiba, but I hope we'll replace this current crop of political class with a fresh breath of air, so that the Katiba can actually be protected properly.
I couldn't agree more with you, and I would say tulinde katiba ili tupunguze mizigo. You see, if we punguza mizigo, a purpose of, we have to, wacha tulinde katiba. Let us insist 100% on adherence and fidelity to the constitution, which also Punguza Mizigo made reference to, and quite a lot, in fact, and so that we can Punguza the Mizigo. So for me, it's saying do not bring back these recycled old has-been legislators unless you can tangibly see what they have done for you. And anybody who is part and parcel of the process of violating the Constitution of Kenya should not be considered for public office in any way, shape, or form. So anybody who was standing there saying, BBI, we support BBI, they have no business thinking that they should run for any elective office. And when we say Fagia Water, we need to remove all of these people. We need to start afresh. Are you telling me, out of the millions and millions of Kenyans who are under the age of 35 or under the age of 40, and I'm not there, we are older, Daktari, we are now part of the older generation.
Yes.
We're not in the young category. You're telling me there is no smart, intelligent, switched on, savvy, committed, high integrity Kenyan to lead this country?
There are many of them, to be honest with you. And in fact, I find Kenyans very pretentious, that sometimes we look up to places like America, Canada, I don't know, UK, but we forget some of the most successful presidents in that part of the world were actually very young. They went into politics very young. I remember, I think, is it Bill Clinton went at age, 42 or thereabouts. Obama around 40, 44. Look at Justin Trudeau of Canada. Look at, New Zealand Prime Minister. But we look up to these countries and we look at their success, we admire them. But we don't also see it's being led by fairly young people who probably, because of their longevity in life, will actually do the right thing to chaperone the country to success. Kenyans, we don't see that. We are still drumming up support for demagogues, guys who are we don't even know whether they will wake up tomorrow, and we keep on being told you are tomorrow's leaders. Kwani kesho inakuja lini? And I wish the young people.
Kwani ni kesho?
Yeah. Instead of us making this tomorrow, today, because our real life struggles, like now, the things you're talking about, the cost of power, education, just inability to actually get transport to go to school. These are struggles of today, not of now, not even today, of now, not even tomorrow. So yes, we need people actually who can fix this thing now with themselves in mind. I have respect for older people. My mother is an old mama. But you see, it's also important to admit that even in life, You know, the older people become, they also the more tired they become. So they should let a certain generation actually take over leadership and take care of society. But I think younger people also needs to really wake up and see themselves as leaders, to stop being told you are tomorrow's leaders, being cheerleaders, political flower girls, you know, or flower boys in political rallies.
I agree.
Right.
Haya, asante sana. Chero, please, when are you coming in? Next week, Friday?
I can try for next week, Friday, yes.
Next week, Friday.
Let's do Friday and I'll physically come in. Sorry, I'd had
Please.
to go somewhere suddenly, but I will
I
try for next week, Friday.
Asante sana. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We value
Thank you, Dr.
your
Who was the
participation.
other ladies?
Faith Sambu.
Sorry?
Faith Sambu. Chepkorir Sambu.
Shepkorir, nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm going to now keep listening as I mute myself. I'll keep listening to the show. Nice to hear your voice, and also nice to talk to you again, Daktari.
Thanks, JEROTICH. Safe travel.
Thank you, Gerald. Speak later.
Asante sana. See you later. We'll speak later. Asante sana. Be safe on the road. All right, but don't leave us. Keep listening in.
I'm listening. I'm just muting myself.
Asante. Haya, daktari.
Yes, sir.
Ulihamia Sudan.
Hapana,
Hata siku hizi naona umeanza kufanana na Salva Kiir.
Jaribu nikitoka kuenda kinyozi direct.
They have Salva Kiir deal.
It's been a very rough week, been very, very busy week trying to figure out how to do the constitution of South Sudan.
What's going on there?
Well, South Sudan wants to write what they call a permanent constitution for South Sudan. Remember, South Sudan has been in a transitional constitution since 2011, just when they got independence in July 9th. So, and of course, after that, there was the internal conflict of 2013. Then there's another conflict in 2016 that culminated into the signing of a September 12th agreement. And in that agreement, it has given South Sudan some sort of a roadmap. You know, one, to write the constitution, matters to do truth and justice and reconciliation, and many other reform agenda. So, yeah, I was invited to try and, you know, by virtue of my experience here in Kenya, Liberia, and a few other countries, to try and be part of a team to think through the roadmap for the constitution-making process.
The Katiba. Katiba of Sudan.
South Sudan.
South Sudan. Hapa Kenya, mahali ulituacha bado tuko.
Kweli,
tumeumia tu zaidi. Tumesikia kuna madola.
Political rallies zimewaka.
Sasa hao ndio wamesonga. Sisi wananchi ndio tunaendelea kuumia. Left us is where we are. But while you are away, there was something called Pandora Papers. Baba, while you are away. Yes. Pandora Papers. While you are away, Baba Fuel.
I saw that.
Was raised.
I was reading about those Pandora Papers. It's all over the world anyway. This is
even in South Sudan.
Even in South Sudan, we were able to read through the Pandora Papers. Yes, and people are asking questions that, wow, how come some of these so-called rich people and billionaires are not actually creditors to this country? Why do we keep on borrowing from China and other countries and not borrow from our own people who are investing money into other countries? They're actually injecting money into other economies, you know, and yet we borrow billions of money from I don't know, China, from I don't know where. We are stealing our own money. You know, if you look at the Auditor General report, BITOC, on average, we steal 700 billion. No, 700 million. Is it 700? I don't know. I'm missing the point. About 700 billion every year to corruption.
But they said we lose 2 billion every day.
Yeah?
Yes.
Well, the president himself confessed that we're losing 2 billion every day. But see, by the time the president confesses, with all the intelligence that he has, the state apparatus, I don't know why he will not arrest whoever it is stealing our money, or 2 billion. But you never know. I mean, he himself now needs to come out and tell us exactly why his family has touched 3 billion, you know, in a foreign land. So, yeah.
So
but you see, while you say ati Wakenya mmekoma tu pale pale, I don't agree. You same Wakenya, you are following this politician to the political rallies at a time when you know, there are still restrictions on COVID-19. I see those huge rallies. In fact, I asked myself, what is really Kenya's priority? What is our priority as Kenyans? When you wake up in the morning, really, as BITOC, as my sister name?
Faith.
Chepkorir.
Chepkorir
Faith.
Sambu.
So really, we should be able to ask ourselves, what is our priority? Why do I go for this political rally? Is really 2022 my priority right now as a Kenyan? Schools have now opened. Parents, students are struggling to just get, transport alone. Forget before you even go to fees and all these other things. Just transport, go to school. To buy basic things like pens, pencil. Those really should be our priorities. But you look, the so-called leadership in this country will wake up, they'll say, 2022. 2022 is about 9 months away. 9 months away. Really, what is our priority as Kenyans? We are not even talking about how do we revive the 7 million small businesses that collapsed last year. How do we put Kenyans back to work? So I don't know. I tend to think that I think witchcraft is real when it comes to politics in Kenya.
Ushawi
ni real.
Ulisema bwana ni maombi.
Kuna vile tumerogwa tu.
Maombi. Ushawi. Now there's a question for you from Karis John.
Yes.
So I want you to look at that. I don't know if you've seen it on the comment section.
Okay.
Something about Turkana wind power. So maybe you can look at that document meanwhile as I try and take in some comments from Chepkorir. You've listened to SEII. You've also listened to Dr. You've listened to the conversations. I don't know if you have anything that you think you want to throw in.
They've largely talked about everything that's wrong in this country internally, domestically. But I think the other unfortunate thing is that there's also so much that is wrong with how Kenya is dealing with issues internationally. And why I say it's unfortunate, it's because Kenyans are not aware about this. Kenyans are ignorant about what's happening between Kenya and in international affairs. And so this is why, for example, when the ruling came out, the ICJ ruling came out, almost every Kenyan is saying, we're with the president on this. When clearly he has failed us internally. Why would we think that he was right on this international issue? So I feel like there's so much mess that the international mess is a whole other thing that people are not aware about, and it's unfortunate that they can be misled by the administration to follow what the president says.
Right. So I would want to ask you, because I know you've understand that you did an article on the maritime issue that Kenya has been facing. But even before you go to that, do you think Kenya has lost its foreign lust? I mean, are we out of touch with our foreign policies? Do you think we still rule in our foreign policy?
Yes, I think slowly and surely our influence internationally is declining. And I actually did an article early this year when Kenya assumed the UN Security Council seat. I said there was a lot of course, hype around it. And I said, yes, we're in the Security Council. It's a good thing. I as a Kenyan, I would support Kenya as a member of the Security Council. But this is a non-permanent member seat. There are other permanent members, 5 permanent members, who make the real decisions on what goes on.
The real decisions.
Okay. So we were celebrating this as a win, but I don't think it's really a win. We need to come back, sit, and try to, first of all, implement our foreign policy document I think it was written in 2014, and try and implement it first. Try and reposition ourselves again. I agree that the image out there internationally of Kenya is good. People still think Kenya is the epitome of peace, promoting the epitome of promoting peace and security around Africa. But I think that we have been declining slowly. Our influence in the region has been declining slowly, and this actually should be seen in our attempts to get the WTO seat, in our attempts to get the African Union chair position, and even the fact that for us to get to the Security Council, we had there was a vote, right, by countries.
Yeah.
We were fronted by the African Union. Djibouti wanted to also get a
Djibouti
seat.
gave us a run for our money. by the
Exactly,
way. Yes.
because
Small country.
Because small,
A village.
we could call it a small country, but we had to do 2 votes to reascertain our position. Djibouti was able to do that to Kenya, so that tells you something. I don't think this would have happened 20 years ago, for example. We wouldn't have had a problem getting votes from the international community, but this time we did.
We had to campaign. We had to pump in resources.
You know, Bitok, working now and in South Sudan and also in other countries, one of the reasons why actually Kenya's influence is declining, because Kenya does not really care about its nationals, wherever they may be. I have seen. I'm sure you know the stories of what's happening to Kenyans in the Middle East. I mean, I can tell you what's happening to Kenyans in South Sudan.
Even in China.
I was in Liberia, in China, Tanzania here, Uganda. To be honest, our government or our top leadership does not care about Kenyans, and so increasingly we are being so disrespected, you know, and because they know that our leadership does not really care. Even countries that actually we are doing better for them. You remember when I used to work in Liberia? Imagine I was required to get a visa here. Liberia is a very small country of about 3 million people.
3 million.
About 3 million.
Nairobi only.
I was required, not even Nairobi,
Nairobi is
bigger. I was required to get a visa here. But a Liberian coming to Kenya will get a visa on arrival. And this is the case in so many countries. So even our principle, the principle of reciprocity, is not really adhered to. Twice now, I've been harassed in Juba International Airport. The guys are asking me openly that, what have I come to do in South Sudan? And I'm telling, well, I don't need permission to come to South Sudan. I'm a Kenyan. I mean, our 2 countries have waived waivers. I mean, visas for everyone. Just yesterday when I was coming, I was told I should have registered my stay in South Sudan within 72 hours. Kenya is not demanding the same of South Sudanese nationals here. And I was so pissed off. I had to call our Kenyan ambassador. They had to intervene. For me, the guys were actually literally rude. They were telling me, no, you're not boarding that flight, you know? And I was like, where is this disrespect coming from? And when I actually look at it very keenly, this disrespect of Kenyans is because of the type and character of leaders we elect. South Sudanese
Gerald.
will not touch a Ugandan. Museveni flies there personally, to make noise. And I've seen that. South Sudanese will not touch any Ugandan. They will not interfere with Ugandan businesses. Even recently, there was an ultimatum that Ugandans may have, to pay a certain amount of money. But somehow their country negotiated in a way. But Kenyans get harassed every day. Tanzania here, hapa tuko border na manga. Yeah, mali wa Kenya nachukuliwa because they know that Kenya leadership will not react. Our brothers and sisters are suffering in the Middle East. They are being enslaved. And these reports are there. I remember when I was the chairman of the National Labour Board, we used to get reports tabled before the National Labour Board, and we will channel this to the Minister for Labour. We just have the laziest leadership in this country who just want to enrich themselves at the expense of Kenya. So that's part of the reason why even a country like Somalia, who we have really hosted and helped for a long time, can now dare us and tell us, this continental waters belongs to us. When will we ever flex our muscles in this region as a country? And all these people, by the way, when you listen to them, I swear, because they think our leadership is crap. It's fakeless, it's just corrupt, it's useless, it's just about themselves. That's all.
Right.
And there's no country that can be respected if its top leadership is not flexing its muscle.
They're all fake.
They're all fakeless.
Chero, there's something you want to throw in.
As I'm listening, I've just stopped again so I don't get in trouble talking and driving. As I'm listening, I want to just remind everyone listening that we have at least 4 million Kenyans, as in of majority, who live in the diaspora. Okay. So we're not even talking about the children who are born there, those who are coming up. We have 4 million strong. This is the 48th county, if you think about it. Yeah. And they have sent since 2004, no less than 4 trillion shillings to Kenya. Yeah, 4 trillion shillings to Kenya. And they are denied the right to vote. They're treated like second, third class citizens, non-existent, utterly without any kind of standing. How many young women have gone to Saudi Arabia and come back in body bags?
Sad.
So it is really a problem that the government is actually deliberately happy to have a disenfranchised and an isolated and marginalized population abroad, because they know that if they were able to vote, if they were able to step up and speak clearly about what they'd like to see in this country, things would change. I'm not saying that it's a homogeneous block of people who do the right thing all the time. No, people will vote differently, people will think differently, but this is a very huge segment of the population of Kenyans whose money we're happy to receive when we're in the middle of deep problems. They send money for medical, send money for school fees, send money to do boreholes. They are basically standing in the gap of corruption. They are subsidizing corruption by bringing development to communities that otherwise cannot function because CDF imekuliwa, sijui what, sijui this. So this is a very important segment of the population. And as Kenyans, we must be concerned that Kenyans all over the world enjoy equal rights. We need to care for our citizens. If South Sudan could hold a referendum where South Sudanese all over the world could actually vote on the referendum, and Kenya is saying, oh, we don't have the capacity. That is rubbish. It is a deliberate ploy by our leadership to marginalize and disenfranchise an independent voice of Kenyans out there. And you're absolutely right, Daktari. That's why Kenyans are treated badly abroad. We can kill how many girls in Saudi Arabia, and we are still discussing labor and migration, movement of who, and we have never taken the government of Saudi Arabia to task over these Atihat attacks that these girls are constantly having. We know they are harassed, they are raped, they are beaten, they are starved, they are mistreated. We don't care. We need to care. But you see, we also have a country that doesn't care about its own population within its borders. So I had to jump in because I completely 100% agree. And it starts again with constitutionalism and protecting and respecting the rights of all Kenyans. And the Supreme Court is already very clear. Kenyans in the diaspora must vote.
And Jerotich, what breaks my heart is that I know, for example, 2 months ago, actually a month ago, I was trying to push for a case of a Kenyan woman in Saudi Arabia, actually. She managed to sneak to us our information, including contact and everything. And I forwarded this to Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Up to now, no response, no nothing. So I'm really wondering, who does this government actually serve? I don't even know this woman. It was just our situation was brought to my attention by a friend. So I decided to forward this information to our foreign embassy. Nothing has happened so far. It's really, really shocking. And for me, we just don't have, even when we say let's Linda Katiba, and I agree, but I think also now we need to begin to investigate, Jerotich. Who are we really asking to come and protect this constitution? What is the character of these people that we are actually saying lead us tomorrow or be our leaders? We really need to interrogate. And I think Kenyans honestly need to wake up. Otherwise, one time, for me as a parent, I really feel bad. The way us guys now at our age, we are suffering, we are feeling so bad. You can imagine our children who are probably brought up in some soft way of living in a Kenya of tomorrow if we are not there. And even if we are there, it feels so bad that you are suffering together with your children and maybe with their children as well. We really need to now interrogate who really are our leaders. And we need to get as fresh people as possible into these leadership positions like yesterday.
Yeah. Faith.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to say now that we are talking about the diaspora and how they're treated very unfairly. It's actually ironical that in the Kenya foreign policy document, there are 5 pillars of the foreign policy, and one of them is the diaspora. The diaspora is actually one of the pillars, but we have not seen them. In paper they say the diaspora are very integral to the survival of Kenya. We rely on them for so much and everything. But when it comes to practice, that cannot be seen. I mean, we saw this when COVID-19 hit and Kenyans were complaining, and Africans generally, but Kenyans were complaining in China about how they were being treated. They were sleeping outside, and they were trying to get in touch with the consulate, with the embassy. Nothing, no statement, nothing. We have just let ourselves be bullied. We have no interest in protecting our citizens abroad, which is a very, as Dr. said, which actually informs how other countries treat us every day. Yeah.
We talk in 2015, 2014 actually, during the Ebola outbreak. I was in Liberia. And of course, working for the UN, as guys were protected, we could be flown, evacuated anytime out of the country. We even had a standby plane, to take us out of Liberia anytime. There were about 22 Kenyans who were stranded, who were going to do business. I remember literally pleading with our government at that time. That time it was Ambassador Amina Mohammed, who was the Minister for Foreign Affairs, telling them, listen, every country is evacuating its nationals. Why are we not even sending a Kenya Airways flight to just come and pick these guys? Do you know how we had to mobilize? I had to put a Twitter debate, put a Twitter campaign to tell Kenyans, let's fundraise for these guys. Because Air Brussels was willing to take them, but they had to go through Brussels and then Nairobi. And that's exactly what happened, by the way. Kenya Airways could not, our own government could not even tell Kenya Airways, go pick these Kenyans. So it's a shame. And talking of the diaspora, by the way, I still want to challenge the Kenyan diaspora. Yes, we put in the constitution that the Kenya diaspora must be registered. So we need to ask some tough questions. What has IEBC done so far in terms of registering the Kenyan diaspora? IEBC needs to account. For all these 4 years, election ended in October 2017. Up to now, or even to next year, can IEBC now release a full register of voters and show us how many Kenya diaspora have been registered? What are the polling stations in those diaspora? This is something we need to ask IEBC immediately. And of course, also government needs to come out and account to Kenyans what measures it has taken to ensure that the Kenyans in the diaspora are actually registered to vote. Isitoshe, my challenge to the Kenya diaspora is this: stop hosting these politicians. Because you see, the same Kenya diaspora are complaining about how government is neglecting them. But tomorrow you will see them hosting, these presidential candidates here and there. They are not even endorsing. Why can't the Kenya diaspora own a candidate? A candidate who actually has policies favorable to them. And they should be able to come out strongly and say, this is our candidate. Let's endorse so and so as our candidate. They are not doing that. But again, we also, by the way, import some of our bad behaviors. But 2012 I had a rude shock. I went to Washington, D.C. to speak to a Kenya diaspora conference. And Bitoka, I was shocked. I saw a corner of Kikuyus, a corner of Luos, a corner of Kisis. In fact, there are even some states that are ideally known for the Kenyan tribes. So I was asking myself, how can we come here? We are in the U.S. capital, capital of the world, where system is what matters. Everybody plugs and plays. But here we have still transported our tribalism. And I wish really Kenyans can embrace this back home, because sometimes when you go outside there and you meet Kenyans in the diaspora, there's a lot of excitement. Kenya economy gani, things nini. Kenyans will even ensure that kuna nyama choma, kuna taska, kuna nini. So we celebrate who we are Kenyans. But when it comes to political choices, I don't know where that Kenya goes. Even in the diaspora. And that's also the reality. So I like to push for the diaspora agenda in this country, but I also want the Kenyan diaspora to actually be proactively engaged. Let's not just talk about how much money we repatriate to the country. It's important for you, when you send your billions of money to Kenya, make sure you also follow your money to make sure that your money is secure. It's secure under a proper leadership, a leadership that not tomorrow will risk your investment. Because the Kenya diaspora invests a lot in this country. And actually, if there's, a diaspora that really loves its country, I think it's Kenyans. I have seen many, citizens of other countries. They will easily settle and, forget about their countries. But I know Kenyan diaspora, they really love Kenya. They invest here. But the only thing I want to challenge them is, please take an interest on the next leadership in this country. If need be, even influence the kind of leadership that you want in Kenya, so that your investment is secure.
All right. So are we becoming a country of null and void? Yesterday, the High Court ruled Huduma number as null and void. 10 billion, 10 point something billion down the line.
10.6 billion.
Down the line.
Yes.
I mean, we are a
down.
beautiful country. First of all, someone woke up one day and said, we need to change the constitution. Give me some bucks. 11 billion. Let's run around. Null and void.
Is it talk?
Money goes down. Huduma number.
I refuse to take Huduma number. I did not see any sense in it. In this
But
country,
they say they were going to deport us. So
yes, okay, let them deport us. They deport us where?
take it,
I mean, listen, I was born in this country. I have a birth certificate. I have got many documents from public institutions, schools I went to. I became an adult at 18. I got a national ID, which has all my details. I have got a national passport. I've got many other. I've got NHIF card. I've got I don't know how many, so many cards. What is so special about this Huduma number? And yet they are not even able to actually articulate what it is, what is new about it. Why can't I use? And you see, this is why when we were saying in Punguza Mizigo, Kenya, when we were running the campaign 2019, 2020, why do we even have to be registered as a voter with a national ID? You see, that's another identity card we have, the registration as a voter. All these documents are issued by the Kenya government. Why can't I just use my national ID to vote?
Yes.
And save billions of Kenya shillings that can be put into education, into health, into...
And if you have an ID, it means you're of age.
Yeah, exactly.
You can vote.
And that's why we're saying, hii ni mizigo tu tunazidi kuwebesha wa Kenya. Now, 10.6 billion has gone down the drain. Yeah? About 20 billion went down the drain with BBI. Other billions will now go down the drain because we have to register Kenyans to vote. You know, billions.
And Kenyans have not showed up, by the way.
We are talking billions, and I saw the statistics: 2%, 3%. You know, so Kenyans are tired. Kenyans are saying this is not a priority for us, to be honest. Convert the national ID into a registered voter. Yeah. For me, that is sufficient enough, and we save billions. We can pay with those billions. We can pay collective bargaining agreements with teachers, with nurses, with doctors. And we will have actually served a larger populace. We'll have served the 50 million Kenyans. Imagine all the teachers if we fix their problems. The doctors. How many Kenyans are we impacting? Lives are we impacting? 50 million. Now registering, I don't know, 350,000 people to vote just because some people want to be elected 2022. For me, that's not really a priority for Kenya right now. A priority for us now is recovery. Recovering this economy. You know, putting Kenyans to work. That's all we should be talking about. The cost of living in this country is so high. You know, those are the things, in my view, we should be debating.
Alright, wakili, uko na huduma?
Yes.
Uko na? Ulishtuliwa? Angevisho, ukaambia you'll be deported.
Yes.
So you have an idea, you have an huduma number.
Yeah, I do.
Yesterday
But where
it was
could they have
declared
deported us?
I don't
No,
know.
they
That's
couldn't
what
have.
hatukuuliza hiyo swali. Hatukuuliza hiyo swali. Tungetumwa wapi?
Unajua deportation is a process.
Na inakwanga kurudishwa kwenu. By the way, tungetumwa wapi?
Kurudishwa wapi?
No way.
Hey, so you have a huduma number.
Yes.
What do you make of yesterday's ruling by the High Court? And does it mean everything in this country the government is doing is illegal?
Well, I'll just say that I think it was expected for the court to rule that because so many laws had been violated with the Huduma number. But I can't say I will really delve into commenting about it very much because I haven't yet read the judgment. Yeah, so I will.
Okay, you'll delve in some other time. Baba also while you're away, vijana wameanza ujinga, wanaua mabibi. So you've lost an athletic champion, Agnes Tirop, yesterday. Is it yesterday or the other day?
I think
I missed that.
Yeah. So this nigga wakes up and starts stabbing this girl.
Yeah.
We just had a record.
You know, Bitok, there's a bigger problem in this country.
Is it depression? Is it mental
Yes, there is a
issues?
bigger problem in this country that not even government is talking about. Not everybody is even talking about. And we should admit, mental illness is a reality in Kenya today. Depression is real. Many people are sick mentally. And honestly, this is something that, in my view, should be prioritized. People are committing suicide, people are committing crimes of passion and all those kind of things. There's a lot of sickness going around in the country. And this is all just probably because of frustrations of, honestly, being a Kenyan. You know, being a Kenyan now is becoming a tough cookie. You know, things are not just going the right way
The way they should
for this country. And therefore, people have lost hope. Today, wacha nikwambie, even if you cause, say, an accident, for example, just try touch a boda guy. Yeah? The way you'll be surrounded, you know, the anger you see. Me, I see that as frustration. There's a lot of depression around the country, and unfortunately, it's a health issue that really the government or the specific Ministry of Health should be addressing on priority basis. This is the reality of Kenya today. We can pretend, but it's happening. Yeah, young people are killing themselves. I mean, people are committing suicide every day. You know, relatives are killing relatives. It's sad. It's sad, man. I mean,
people waking up. I mean, anyway, I don't know what to say.
You know, we need to talk about this because I remember back in my days when I was a student in the UK, there was a problem of obesity in the UK. And I remember Prime Minister Tony Blair then noted that this is a national problem. And they started talking about obesity. And he related obesity to how it was affecting the health, the national health insurance. And how it was impacting on the budget. So even this mental illness that we see in Kenya, we need to have a conversation around it. And I think the leadership of this country must really talk about it. You know, and I think we need to see it as from a Medicare perspective. Just like, for example, the way the UK then told British people, please, you need to watch what you eat, you need to exercise. This is all a leadership question.
Okay. Jatuangalie mambo ya ngono wale wako YouTube. Pale Edwin Juma and Sam Muscat has joined. Good morning to you. HDD God, good morning from NC. Asante sana. Frederick Juma ya Munebe Talk. Happy to see you and joining you this morning. Tuko pamoja hadi tamati. Asante sana. Ball J ya Gerald, greeting you and your guest. Mwambie EKURU has been missing in action. How is Study Alliance, KE and PMK dealing with IBC timelines? Okay. Njuan Jage, good morning, GB. Thanks. Thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Njuan Jage, tell JEROTICH we love what she does for the people. Sunday Blessed Frank today is a must watch. Asante sana Blessed Frank. Grace Kama, good morning, GB. Good morning to you, Grace. Maki Blackguard, huyu bwana yake alali vizuri, sijui bwana nani. Haya. Anasema bro, asante sana. Daniel Ndiritu logged in from Qatar. I like the conversation. Good morning, Bito. Good morning to you, Ndiritu. Great mind. I wish they had the power. Daniel Ndiritu, JEROTICH, the lady of wisdom. I love the way she is strong with what she believes. Blessed Frank, Kenyans must stop living in denial. Corruption imetushinda. We should all surrender. MC Aspirant Cleophas, good morning, JB. Good morning to you. Vision Total Football Kenya from the UK. As Dr. EKURU, Kenya loses 700 billion on corruption per year and spends 800 on public wage bill. That's a total of 1.5 trillion. Kenya collects only 1.6 trillion. How will Kenya develop? Swalanyeti from the UK. Jack Olekabai, Kenya needs AUKOT to stand in between the billionaires and the MP's governments. We need a new parliament, not the one that disguises itself under new name through defection from Jubilee to UDA. EKURU run. Okay. Korir Matthew, as an Elgeyo Marakwet County citizen, I'm proud of JEROTICH. EKURU Salamu Baba, somebody is great. The conversation is lit and I hope every Kenyan should be hearing this. Asante. Vision from the UK says if we in diaspora are allowed to vote, politicians would wake up and respect Wanjiku, both in Kenya and in diaspora. Kenyan lives are not respected and a Kenyan passport is losing its value globally. Frederick Juma, on the court ruling on Huduma number, the truth is we are having a judicial dictatorship. They should just let some things be. Just some things be. Frederick Juma, AUKOT pia yeye awache zake. Sio kila kitu government inafanya ama vitu zinafanya sio priority. Everything is priority and they can run concurrently. Okay. Haya. Januli wangwana wa Facebook. Kenneth Kipruto anasema big up Chief Korir, brilliant lawyer in the making. Asante sana. Rosemary Kabuki. Personally, I'm saying no to recycling politicians. Nikki Kamau, JEROTICH is waxing really cool. Okay. Benigonza Longo, Betox Salimia, son of the soil. Unasalimia Doktari. Karis John, why 150,000 workers of Turkana wind power while we needed only 40,000? I think the question from Karis. Festus Kanda, sober brain. Gerald Betox, this is acknowledgement of our constitution. Congratulations to tackle staff really becoming our staff. Currently, we have to wildlife pongezi. Thank you so much, Festus Kanda. Kayemba Wandambusi, all the way from Trans Nzoia, I think insightful discussion tuned in. Asante sana. Karis John, Dr. AUKOT, was this Turkana wind power project viable? There's a link that has been sent on the comment section. Maybe you can start with by commenting on that first.
I think the project is viable. I think it's just how it was structured right from the very beginning. For example, it touches on the question of land, that we only needed 40,000 acres of land, but they managed to get, they grabbed 150,000 acres of land. This is all just because some people want to be compensated on same land. Remember,
Kama
SGR. The same approach with SGR. Now somebody is actually claiming compensation over that land. And already it's causing a community issue. Because remember, that is community land. And there was no compensation for the community. In fact, the Turkana wind power project, although it's good for the country, it has actually caused displacement of population. It has denied people. I mean, I don't know whether you've driven there. I mean, I've driven all the way to Loyangalani and I've seen those.
I've gone there actually as well. I was there, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
And it is really excising huge tracts of land. It's actually interfering with pastoralism, which is really a livelihood, because the people around there, the Turkana, the Samburu, the Almolos and the rest. These are essentially pastoralists who rely on on pastoralism as a livelihood. They have been denied that opportunity without even compensation. And we're not saying if there is a national project of significance like a Turkana wind power energy project, that we shouldn't go on with it. But let's also see the benefit to the people. It should not also interfere. It should not also interfere with people's constitutional, customary rights. Right now, it has. It has taken away land from the people, no compensation. It is also interfering with customary rights, like just the right of passage. You know, I remember this is one of the biggest issue around the Endorois people in Lake Bogoria back in the days when I think was it President Moi and his government denied them access to the lake. It became a justiciable issue. So the same thing. I mean, this is already a battle brewing between the local community there and this government has such bad manners, by the way. Same thing. There's already a community called from a place called Marti in Samburu, Nachola. Again, government has decided to take away their land and award it to KDF. Of course, we are in court over that issue. So I think processes of acquisition, how government acquires land, is very, very well regulated. And unfortunately, for some communities, government doesn't really care. Government could not have done that when they were doing SGR, because probably they respect communities in this other side of the world. But those pastoral communities, the same way they came and just prospected for oil in Turkana, they didn't even consider the fact that actually they're taking away community land. Up to now, there's a brewing battle between the Turkana community around Lokichar area where the oil is being prospected, and Talo Oil, and the government of Kenya. I was involved back in the days about 2012, and I actually remember writing a memorandum of understanding, an agreement between Talo Oil, government of Kenya, and then Turkana County Council at that time. And they disregarded, they ignored that agreement. But now it's coming to haunt them, because the people now are talking about compensation. You know, they want to know what percentage. Even this Turkana wind power energy, why shouldn't the people of Marsabit and partly Samburu benefit from this project? There has to be some benefit. You can imagine if that project was not at the risk of sounding tribal. If that project was, for example, somewhere, say in central Kenya or western, I'm sure we'll be talking serious compensation. The same way we'll be compensated people in billions of Kenya shilling just over the SGR, you know?
All right. Okay. So, and the most interesting thing is, even as we find more renewable sources of energy, instead of the cost of energy going down, it keeps going up.
Yes, exactly.
The opposite is true.
Uganda, do you know oil is very cheap in Uganda?
Why is it cheap?
Fuel is cheap in Uganda.
It is.
And yet it comes through Kenya. And it's a landlocked country. We who are even saying we have oil alone, we cannot even build a local refinery in Turkana alone. Lakini hata tuoni tujipake hiyo mafuta, si at least itolewe kwanza ndio
tuache kuparara.
Tuache kuparara.
Yes.
Utajipaka namna gani mafuta ambayo hata uoni?
Say something. JEROTICH, karibu.
You know, I'm still listening. As you can tell, I should have been in the studio. But But I just want to say something. When you talk about refineries, if you think about the sabotage of Changamwe Refinery, which was one of the ways that we were able to lower the cost of fuel in Kenya, and it came from through the damaging of equipment. And what was that? A Kenya Power surge. So there's a Kenya Power surge or something or other, which resulted in the massive damage of refinery equipment in Changamwe. And that began the importation of oil. So the oil importation cartel, where the open tendering system was no longer applicable, and you had massive companies like, GAPCO, Vakina Mukesh Ambani, and all those others we started to bring refined oil. Whereas before, we could bring in oil, refine it, and sell it. So there's been a deliberate sabotage within the energy sector of cheaper energy sources, because there are cartels somewhere that will make money from, for example, oil importation. And the person who bears the brunt is Wanjiko in terms of the cost of fuel. When it comes to Lake Turkana wind power, and I have a long tweet, a long thread I did about it. I wrote about it a few years ago. It was in 2008 when President Uhuru Kenyatta was local government minister that he gazetted the 150,000 acres in Loyangalani to be set aside for Lake Turkana wind power. It is true that only 40,000 was used, and the other 110,000 is what? Collateral, privately owned. The Rendiles, the Turkanas, the Samburus, the communities, they just looked at the land and they said, what is it? Just a random pastoralists roaming around with their livestock. Who cares? The disenfranchisement of the people in Loyangalani is complete. And the court case that the community tried to take Lake Turkana wind power to court. You can imagine how that ended. It's still an ongoing matter. At some point, some judges had to recuse themselves. It is a very, very serious matter. And it started with that Gazette notice in January 2008, when we were very busy with post-election violence. And by April, the deed had been written up. By April, ownership had left the community that owned the land. Until today, tell me what type of compensation they've received. And who is holding the other title deed for 110,000 acres? Who? Wind power? Is it an individual? Is it a family? And when you talk about the board and conflict of interest within the board, do you know that the chair of the board sat with the East African Development Bank that was instrumental in funding Lake Turkana wind power? When you talk about conflict of interest, when you talk about people on the board who represent first family interests from the perspective of even these same Pandora things of keeping money abroad, etc., it is so riddled with conflict of interest, because ultimately people do not want to be accountable. And I told you, energy is the place where people will make money with impunity for the rest of their lives until we stop them. And in the process, they say Wananchi be damned, the Rendiles be damned, the Turkana be damned, the Samburu be damned. And we will continue to import on the high seas our mafuta, bringing it to Kenya and selling to us for extremely high prices when we have the ability. I would not even say have a refinery in Turkana, for example, even if you were to just have it, even if you were to revive Changamwe. And there has been money put aside every year. There is the subsidy, fuel subsidy that should be there to revive our refinery. This year it went to pay SGR, 18.1 billion shillings. So we end up suffering as the population of this country, because there is what I call high corruption so high and then so deep that the minute you talk about it, you can't get to the bottom of it. So you say, tunaibiwa pesa. And then people look at you and they laugh at you, because there's something wrong. Your money is being stolen, but you can't place your finger on it because of the web that is woven around it, the layers upon layers upon layers, that you cannot unpick it unless you have, like I said earlier, the political will to forensically get to the bottom of it. So you find, for example, respectable international companies behind Lake Turkana wind power, etc., and you say, there's Aldrich here, there's this. Recently or yesterday, they have replaced their CEO. They have a new CEO, I think a Dutch national. So it looks like it should be a functioning, good company. But look at the ultimate beneficial owners, and you will see it's a case of Kikulacho, Kingoni Mwako, because it boils down to people in Kenya who are interested.
And you see, Jerotich, what most Kenyans do not know, that our natural resources in this country, the wealth of this country, was actually mapped out way back 1949. If you remember the ordinance, the petroleum ordinance of 1949,
Yes.
that law actually mapped out the wealth of this country. For example, if you look at the Suguta Valley, which of course goes all the way up to now where the Loyangalani, that project is, it is so rich in mineral resource, so rich, up from starting from this what is where the GDC Nakuru is, all the way to like Bogoria, Mount Silale, or all that area. And guess who are actually behind that? There is a cartel of companies. One of them is called Olsuswa. You know, Olsuswa. Okay. It's now prospecting for, geothermal deposits. And in case people are not able to connect that, actually, it is our own leadership and people who are actually selling our wealth out of this country using these international companies. And they are also sponsoring conflict, by the way. If you look at the conflict around Kapedo area, you know, it's actually sponsored deliberately because of the GDC geothermal deposits in Mount Silale. So we are a very rich country, but there are transnational corporations working together with a cluster leadership in our country, and they're actually selling away our wealth. That's the same thing you see happening in Kwale with the Tiomin mining. You know, Mui region in Kitui, same thing. We are actually exporting our wealth in raw.
And have you seen what they have done to Menengai Crater? I don't know when the last time was you saw Menengai Crater, where you're having exploration for geothermal, because, you know, we like bragging about how clean and wonderful geothermal is, but same with wind and same with solar. But the process of acquiring it, of producing it is dirty. And if you look to see, if you do a Google Earth and have a look at Menengai Crater, you see it is pockmarked with holes of exploration. It's not fracking, but it's a drilling to see where the best nodes are. I'm sorry, I'm not a geothermal specialist, but in the process, it has produced so much sulfur, sulfurous rain, destroying livelihoods, farms, people who've lived around there. And there's now an attempt to expel people from their land over there. This is a quiet problem brewing in Menengai, Rongai area. Every place you look, even when you have an opportunity for clean energy, it has been turned into something filthy and into something dirty because the beneficial owners, so if they realize that diesel thermal is not popular anymore, they say, okay, let's go do wind, or let's go do solar, or let's go do more geothermal. And then soon in Scotland at the COP, they'll be busy talking about how Kenya and its renewable energy, sijui wind, sijui what. But the people on the ground are suffering because we have not enjoyed lower costs of energy, and the actual people on whose land some of these explorations happen have not been compensated and are actually being manhandled, mistreated, and having their rights violated. So this is why I keep saying the energy sector is going to be the Waterloo of cartels in this country. If we can unpick it so that you can see how quiet and insidious, even when they're talking clean energy, is, and understand why you pay your high kerosene rate is because Changamo is not functioning. When you look at why there is a proliferation of diesel thermal. But you know, one of these companies, Ormat, Or Power, is currently being investigated. The Southern District of New York is looking into it. You know, every time there's a US dollar utilized somewhere in corrupt practices and other things like that, it is very possible for the United States to instigate or initiate an investigation, because that is their money. And you know, a lot of these people who think they're getting away with some of their corrupt practices, so long as they've had some dollars that have moved through the United States, so that can be traced one way or another. One day, look at their cashers, look at all of that. This is the Southern District of New York. And if you begin to unpick the type of racketeering that is involved in the energy sector, the kickbacks, the money laundering, and so on, all of these guys should be arraigned by yesterday. And eventually, the slow wheels of justice turning will catch up to them. So clean energy is dirty in Kenya. Dirty energy is dirty in Kenya. You reach a point where you need an entire overhaul of the energy sector in this country, and you cannot overhaul it by replacing the CS. You bring another CS who is apparently effective, etc., etc. At the end of the day, when the executive is oversighting itself, it will be protecting the interests of a small but elite group of politicians and other politically connected individuals who cannot stop benefiting from the energy sector. And this is something we have to keep talking about and shouting loudly about. Those who can do the forensics, those who can deep dive, those who can research. We need almost like a multiplicity of of actions and actors to keep unpicking. And that's why I've been very gratified recently to see that the media, much as we have issues with them, have been exposing Lake Turkana wind power and the inefficiencies that we as the electricity consumer and taxpayer have already lost 45 billion even before we start paying them for SEMA. And the problem with the power purchase agreement is it's based on something called take or pay. So whether you use it or you don't use it, you're paying for it. Whereas a power purchase agreement should be based on take and pay, meaning you take what you need and you pay for what you have consumed. Exactly. I cannot go, it's like going to a restaurant and I'm told whether I drink one soda or not, I'll pay for the whole crate. Because the contract I signed when I walked into that restaurant was that I am going to pay for the whole crate whether I consume it or not. So we just need to keep educating and raising awareness and telling people you're not crazy. Your prices are high because there's somebody somewhere in the background who has an interest in profiting off the backs of ordinary Kenyans.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Haya, tukifunga supermarket ili kuna mtu alinipigia simu akaniambia niache kusema kiosk. Kuna supermarket lazima ni duka kubwa. Now, we want us to finally have a conversation and comment around the ICJ ruling. I'll start with you, Faith, so that Dr. can close for us. What do you make of it? Did we expect to get here? Now we are here. What's the way out?
Yeah, the ruling, the judgment was expected to. In fact, the ICJ sort of gave us was a bit lenient on the judgment because you see, and this is an issue that most Kenyans are uninformed about, and they need to actually listen to it and understand the position we're at right now. So the sea is a very important natural resource. Yeah. It gives us we get money from trade that comes through the sea. We get tourism. The fish that we can harvest. There are oil deposits that are in the Continental Shelf. So what happened is this: the law that governs conduct of states as regards the sea is called the Law of the Sea. And one particular document is instrumental in this. It's called the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which Kenya and Somalia have ratified. So this, you see, when it comes to the sea, there are different maritime zones that the Law of the Sea has designated, showing the extent to which countries have sovereignty and sovereign rights and jurisdiction, so that one country cannot own the whole sea up to the end. So what happens is there's the first zone, which is called the Territorial Sea. It's 12 nautical miles from our coastal line, our baseline, and it is part and parcel of Kenya's territory. It's just like our land. And then beyond that, when you measure from our coastal line, I will use the coastal line because it's a more lay term. When you measure from the coastal line 200 nautical miles into the sea, you get the exclusive economic zone, which is the water part of it. It's if you know, it's actually surprising that there's a lot of fish that can be harvested for food. It's immense. In fact, countries like Japan and South Korea have been harvesting our fish even illegally.
Really?
Yes. And then down
Japan harvesting fish in Kenya.
Yes, okay. and then down where there's the what we call the seabed and the subsoil, the sort of the ocean floor, still and just under the territorial sea and under the exclusive economic zone is what is a zone called the Continental Shelf. This is an important zone because it is where if there are any minerals, they're found there. So right now, there's the issue of oil blocks in the sea. Now, what happened is this: Kenya, the Law of the Sea Convention, the 1982 Convention, talks about the fact that when it comes to states that neighbor each other and are coastal states, then they need to decide on their maritime boundary. In this case, Kenya has two neighboring coastal states. It has Tanzania and it has Somalia. Now, the golden rule in the convention is that our maritime boundary should be delimited by agreement, so that Kenya and Tanzania sit down, delimit our boundary. Kenya and Somalia sit down, delimit the boundary. This happened with Tanzania. we did an agreement with Tanzania. It went well. Case closed. But we never did a successful agreement with Somalia when it came to our maritime border with Somalia. So what happened? Of course, Somalia experienced spouts of civil war and instability, and then Kenyans decided to. You see, what I think Dr. knows, because he's a lawyer, when it comes to conventions, we domesticate it. We domesticated the Law of the Sea Convention with the Maritime Zones Act. But before that, we had another act called the Territorial Waters Act of 1972 that was amended. Our act says, when it comes to, it actually talks about our maritime boundaries. So we said in our Territorial Waters Act, our boundary with Somalia will be delimited by agreement. In the Maritime Zones Act, the Law of the Sea Convention says, please delimit your boundaries by agreement. Our Maritime Zones Act reflected that position. We said we would delimit our maritime boundary with Somalia by agreement. It's actually in our own Act of Parliament. And then in 1979, the president issued a presidential proclamation saying, our boundary with Somalia will follow what is called a parallel of latitude, which is, I think you've seen from the sketches, the line that Kenya inenda straight, it's just parallel to the latitude. And then that was that. And then we had a bit of negotiations with Somalia in the 80s, nothing. And then in 2005, President Mwai Kibaki issued another presidential proclamation saying that our maritime boundary with Somalia will follow the parallel of latitude. Now, you need to understand, this is a unilateral declaration. We have not engaged Somalia in this process, which is, in essence, a violation of the law of the sea. And it became a problem. This became a problem in 2014, but first it started in 2009, when we realized there were resources in the sea. And then we talked to Somalia and said, okay, you see, international law allows you to extend your continental shelf by around 150 nautical miles if you want to use it to gain natural resources. But in order to extend it, you need the permission of a commission called the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf. So you sort of need their recommendations. It's mandatory. So we wanted to get the recommendations of the CLCS. And so what we did is we told Somalia, okay, even Somalia wanted oil. So we both agreed we want to extend our continental shelves. But remember, there's no boundary. And so what happened is, fine, we signed an MOU in 2009 saying we will not object to each other's submission for an extension of the continental shelf. And then now what happened is the CLCS will normally circulate these applications around member states of party to the law of the sea, right? Convention. And in this MOU, we recognized, both Kenya and Somalia recognized that there was no maritime boundary between the two countries, and we were going to delimit it later by agreement. So when this application was circulated, and then it reached Somalia. Somalia objected in 2014 to the application for extension by Kenya, and even Kenya decided to also object to Somalia's. But what ensued then was that Kenya instigated negotiations between it and Somalia to finally delimit the boundary. But I kid you not, with the bad behavior that you have seen in our leadership, the meeting just before Somalia filed the case, the last meeting in Mogadishu, Kenyans did not attend. This was reported by the Nation. We actually did not show up, which just shows how much we hold in contempt. Yes, Somalia. Now Somalia, of course, it's August. We not showed up for the meeting. Almost 10 days later, it filed a case in the ICJ, and it is actually allowed because we are party to the statute establishing the ICJ, and we have made a declaration saying we are open to the jurisdiction of the court, and Somalia has made a similar declaration. So in essence, in according to the law, international law, Somalia did not need the permission of Kenya to sue Kenya at the ICJ, because both countries had made that declaration. Now, we handled the negotiation stage very wrongly, and I think we would have gotten a good deal if we had negotiated well, because clearly we are the stronger side. But now we are in court. We are in court, and we are in court here. Somalia is telling the court, we want you to determine the single maritime boundary delimiting the territorial sea, exclusive economic zone, the continental shelf, and the outer limits of the continental shelf. And Somalia is telling the court, we want you to also determine the exact coordinates. So in essence, the court is going to draw this boundary. And the Somalia is also telling the court, we want you to actually use this method called the equidistance method. And I think you've seen that line that Somalia wanted in their sketches.
But even it's almost getting into the country. Kidogo tu imeshika. Ama kila mtu anyoroshe yake. Tuingie Tanzania huyo anyoroshe.
But now you see the most interesting thing is that the Law of the Sea Convention still says failing agreement. That means if parties are not able to agree, then parties will use the median line to yield an equitable solution. Which median line is this? It's the equidistance line. So this is why Somalia had a strong case.
Okay.
And then the second reason Somalia had a strong case was because we were ourselves in violation of our own internal laws, of the MOU, of the Maritime Zones Act, of the Law of the Sea Convention, even in contravention of our own official statements to the UN Secretary General and even to the court. So Somalia had a strong case. Kenya tried to object to the jurisdiction of the ICJ. The ICJ said in February 2017, we have jurisdiction. And so the case goes on. And if you had read that judgment, if Kenyans would have read that judgment, they'd have known where the case was going to go. Clearly, Somalia was going to win. But the problem is, a case is a case, and you mount your defense to the very last. You mount it. Kenya did not, like I said in my first article, when it comes to international cases, especially ones to do with boundaries, in my opinion, I think it's important that you also involve Kenyans who are experts in this area, because the patriotic element of it is very strong. If you hire someone from the UK, fine, they may be good, but do they really have your interest at stake? So Kenyans, I was taught the law of the sea. I was still in campus in 2017, and I was taught the law of the sea by a professor who actually studied it at masters. I was taught maritime law by another professor. Both of them told us during class they were never consulted. They even tried reaching out to the AG. They were never consulted, just even consultation on how this thing should go forward. Now, the court, of course, on Tuesday now said this is the position. Kenya was saying Somalia had acquiesced to the maritime boundary along the parallel of latitude. But the court said acquiescence should be clear and consistent. Somalia had not been consistent in agreeing that Somalia had never even agreed there was a maritime boundary. Somalia kept saying we had the MOU, we had negotiations in the 80s, we had the submission to the CLC for the extension. The court also the court says the parallel of latitude line did not delimit the boundary, and it also said the parallel of latitude could not yield an equitable solution in this case. So the court decided to use the equidistance line, but it called it the provisional equidistance line and adjusted it. So it used a method. The method to delimit was an adjusted equidistance line. It was adjusted a little in favor of Kenya.
Kidogo tu.
So now we are here. We did not show up for the hearing because, you see, the problem is, I'm sorry to say this if it is very harsh, I've been criticized before on my position regarding the Somalia versus Kenya case. In fact, I wrote on Twitter that one paper, the first opinion I wanted to publish was rejected by one of these media stations because they said it was too negative, but it was the truth. So our president, you disregard court rulings and judgments in Kenya. You want to do the same thing in the ICJ. So you don't show up for the hearings. If we'd have shown up for the hearings, we would have, can you imagine the court adjusted the line? Imagine if we had showed up for the hearing, it would have been adjusted further, you know? So that was the first blunder. But we decided not to boycott the hearing because the ICJ could not postpone the hearing. But you see, the ICJ had already postponed the hearing thrice in favor of Kenya.
Actually, I think we slept on our own job, Bitalk. We slept on this case. Just like many others international cases, Kenya is become so notorious for very weak defenses in almost all its cases. You see, Wakili has explained the law and all that and the judgment, but there's a bigger problem about delimiting Kenya's boundaries. In fact, the only boundary between us and our neighbor that has been mathematically delimited is actually Kenya-Tanzania. The rest are not. Kenya-Somalia border boundary, which is really the longest, has not been delimited. Ethiopia, Kenya, again, is another problem. South Sudan, Kenya, another problem. That's why you hear stories about Nadapal, Elemi Triangle in the north. And this is just because Kenya does not really care. It doesn't take itself very, very seriously. You know, and this is why, again, you go back to the point about why we are losing our influence even in the region. We're disrespected because there is some degree of laxity and laziness or and don't care attitude, carelessness in our country, in our top leadership. Everybody expects that Kenya should be like the big boy, the big brother in this region. But now they have come to know, because of our lackluster, feckless leadership. Yeah, so they don't really respect us. That's why you will even see the mistreatment of Kenyans abroad. It's happening. Kenyans are losing their businesses abroad. Nobody will make noise for them. Same thing. South Sudan now is actually claiming that up to Lokichogo. In fact, they are even claiming up to Kakuma.
Uganda was at some time was claiming up to Naivasha.
You know, all that. And this is really, this judgment, the ICJ judgment, is actually exposing a very serious issue that we must begin to have as a country. We need to delimit our boundaries properly. Because, see, the territory of Kenya is actually recognized in the constitution. And if you can see, we can even put the map of Kenya actually in the schedules. So we have to protect that. That's our sovereignty. That's our territorial integrity as a country.
But can you imagine there's an office in the AG that's charged with that, the Kibo office,
yes,
when it comes to boundaries? And where have they... This is why we need to have a mechanism of holding our leaders accountable for this, because we've spent a lot of millions on legal representation at the ICJ, only for us to abandon the case at the last. And now we've lost it. And now what the president is saying, even last week before the judgment, he said clearly he's not going to recognize the judgment of the ICJ. And of course, he's riding on the fact that enforcement of international of the ICJ judgment could be a problem. But if worse comes to us, the UN Security Council will be tasked with enforcing the judgment. So I just want Kenyans to know that as you back Uhuru in protecting our territorial integrity in what we think is our sea, you should know that these blunders were made by this administration. The ICJ, in giving Somalia, in giving the judgment largely in favor of Somalia, was quoting our own laws against us. Can you imagine? Somalia, in its submissions to the court, was saying the Maritime Zones Act of Kenya, the Territorial Waters Act of Kenya, the statement by the Attorney General Githu Muigai, the statement by this one, the Memorandum of Understanding between us and Kenya. Clear. It was
everything.
embarrassing to
they
me.
basically beat us around.
For me, I told my friend, for me, the most embarrassing thing was not that we lost part of what we believed to be to have been our sea, but the most embarrassing thing was that our own laws, our own official statements were being used against us.
All right. We are 15 minutes past time. So, Daktari, I would want to take I extended a bit because, you just arrived from the countries of many dollars. So that maybe if I had 15 minutes, you could be kind enough to gonyas. All right. Your tackle of the day, Chep Korir, so that I can give it to Daktari as we go.
As you focus on how much mess is in the country domestically, please also realize that our international, in the international arena, that's where another mess is happening, and this is why our economy is now doing badly. We have debt. We have now lost part of the sea that we could have sort of reclaimed, all because of what Uhuru Kenyatta. Please don't just blindly believe what the president says about our international matters. Ignorance is the biggest problem when it comes to international law matters. You all disagree with Uhuru inside here, but outside there, you're agreeing with him. And this administration has made a lot of mess.
All right. Daktari.
I think for me, Bitok, I just came already feeling a little bit tired, but I just want to say that I think reflecting on what has been happening in our country in the last couple of weeks, even last week, and what's happening today, I really want to urge Kenyans to think about prioritizing things. The animated political temperature right now, in my view, is not really a priority to us as a country. I think let's not make this issue of 2022 like a matter of life and death. We've got many other pressing issues, problems as a country. And I think if we can just sober up kidogo as Kenyans, stop this excitement of 2022 and see whether we can even call this government at least to account on a number of things. I just want to remind Kenyans that even as you cheer some of the people that Uhuru Kenyatta now wants to succeed in 2022, don't forget that the same administration is going to leave us with about 8 trillion national debt. Meaning that hii ni mzigo tutabeba, whether he prefers whoever his successor is, it's a continuation of this bad administration. So I think Kenyans needs to wake up and smell the coffee.
All right, wake up and smell the coffee. I have someone from diaspora. I just want to take the comment in a minute. Good morning. Good evening. It depends where you are. And they say it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Give me the phone call. Engezea hapo simu tafadhali. Jambo.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. My name is Mark.
Just
want to say
Hi, Mark.
Ndugu yangu pale America.
Yeah, I'm fine. And hey.
Hello, hi.
Yeah, hi. Before I got the moment, I would like to wish Gerald. It was his birthday yesterday.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it.
Happy.
At least I know now EKURU is going to leave me some dollars.
Well, the thing is, the thing that I wanted to contribute about was about mental health. Because it's getting crazy in Kenya right now. And like, people are killing themselves, people are killing their spouses. I don't know that area. What do you think about that? Because in the core crazy.
Mental
people
health.
are going through stress and depression, and it's being taken very slightly.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier on, we really need to take this issue of mental illness seriously. It's actually, for lack of a better word, I'm thinking it's a pandemic on its own actually, because it's affecting many people, and it's claiming lives every day. And it's also maybe arises from the way things are just happening in our society today. So yes, it's something that really should be made a national agenda. I belong in some groups where we're actually discussing this mental illness, and trust me, since I joined these groups, it has really opened up my mind, and I know that this thing is serious. You might think people are normal, the way they walk, the way they talk to you, but kumbe people are really suffering and struggling. And so this issue really should be made a national agenda, in my view, and totally agree with you. It's government really needs to be lobbied immediately to even table a motion, and I hope we had really parliamentarians worth that name. They should somebody should have by now actually tabled a motion in Bunge about what we are doing about this mental illness, because it's a reality.
And mental health care is very expensive from experience.
What do you think of the state of the mental health care?
I think there's a lot of ignorance.
It was nice talking to you. And Faith.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Asante, bro. You're nice. Enjoy your weekend. All right. Thank you so much, Faith, for coming in. I hope to see you again soon. Although they can still continue. These are very young Kenyans who are very knowledgeable about the country. Absolutely. I mean, it's quite impressive.
And you see, like you keep on, and that's why I keep on saying, and I'll challenge people like Faith and others. You see, the way I didn't even need to jump in about articulating the law. I mean, Faith knows it very well. That's part of international law. And so this country is not short of talent. we have Kenyans who are actually able to run this country properly, both from an intellectual point of view, even politically. So, and you know, my message all along has been that the young people really must come out. They must take charge of this country. I mean, I would love to go back to Kenya, to School of Law and teach law and or travel the world and consult.
In fact, now I think I should even start learning law again.
Yeah, we should. So Kenya, we are very talented. Kenya. I mean, we have many talented young Kenyans. But I just hope that, Faith, you will not be swayed by these political waves that are coming and telling you guys to dance by political rallies. Yeah, no, you should be Kenya's leaders today, not tomorrow.
I hope so, but
Yes.
you see, there's a whole campaign against intellectuals in this country, or people who.
Well, intellectuals need to come
That's why
out,
people
to come together.
go abroad. You see, Kenya could get international lawyers. They're there in Europe who are Kenyans, but we go
Mambo
for
iko vile
foreigners.
ilivyo. Haya, wangwana ndio Kenya yetu. Kwani ni kesho.
Lakini lazima tuifix hii Kenya.
Tutaifinya mpaka ingiane.
Lazima tuifix.
Tutaifinya mpaka ingiane, lakini sasa I think the system is rigged against us, but we'll keep pushing the system.
No, we have to keep pushing.
Until the system cannot work
I
anymore.
mean,
But the
who
most
will
beautiful thing
who will
is,
have believed Uhuru would be president of Kenya? Unakumbuka wakati Moi akimsimamisha? When Moi was Moi, my friend.
hey, jamaa bwana koti bwana ilikuwa
Koti
imefika
ilikuwa
kwa
ina-
miguu chini.
Saa hizi ndio huyu ako New York anatuwakilisha.
I'm not
this is possible.
I'm not taking in questions. Hata alipata kitambi siku hizi. Siku ile tumbo ilikuwa inashikana na mgongo. Lakini siku hizi.
So it's possible, boss.
Jamaa-
Don't give up.
Jamaa ako na ngamia wadu.
We shall not give up.
I will not give up. I just give up. Anyway, we'll keep pushing it. And the best thing about the whole thing is time fixes a lot of things.
Of course.
As long as we keep doing it, like I say, let's keep talking about it. Let's keep having this conversation.
Yeah.
And the most beautiful, one thing that really gave me a lot of power about conversations is how BBI was disenfranchised by a conversation. People talking about
Exactly.
it. People debunking it. I mean, we are on the right track.
Even us, when we started Punguza Mizigo 2019, people were laughing at us.
Yes, but it's
People were saying at us, we mnaenda
Nini,
wapi, nini. But shock on them. We managed to cause a national conversation. You know, whether they shut it down or not. But we
managed to talk at the end of the day.
At
We
least we
talked. We had a
talked.
conversation.
Now people are talking about the question of burden of governance. So it's on people's agenda. Whether we are not able to articulate it, loudly like these other fellows or not. But at least...
Awareness is being
Yes, we must be resilient
Right.
in changing this country.
Okay, Sande sana daktari, let's keep pushing. And I'm sure we all want a better country. But it might not really be for us because I think we are almost expiring. But at least for our children and people who come after us. That
Exactly.
will say we did something for
I
them.
think that's the responsibility we should all embrace right
next
now.
generation.
What are we doing about protecting this country for future
The next
generations?
generation.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much, guys, as well on YouTube that have been with us, the diaspora guys. It's always amazing to have you on the show every time. You choose not to sleep so that you can continue having this conversation with us. And thank you as well, the guys on Facebook, for being with us this morning. The guys on Twitter, it's always a great pleasure having you. The guys who have been calling Pole, bunga la mwenye nchi leo ni kama ilikuwa na kizungumkuti kidogo, lakini basi tutakutana tena next week. It has been Sheria Wiki on the 15th of October 2021, tarehe kwa 15 mwezi wa 10 mwaka 2021. Tunaenda huko Tindikwa recharge. We are going to recharge in Tindikwa. See you there. If you see me along the road, no, you're going to get a recharge for yourself, but grab one for yourself on the supermarket shelves, and I can tell you free that you're going to have a good day. Until Monday, take care and enjoy your weekend. Kwani ni kesho. Bye bye.